Alright, here's the final video, I think, in my Mishimoto Oil Cooler series for my 2021 Indy Miata Club. Here you can see that I've got the oil cooler itself installed right there in the middle, just underneath the bumper bar. You can see the cooling lines going from the top of the cooler, and the steel braided lines going through part of the chassis here. I've covered all the areas that I thought would that the steel brace, that the braided steel lines would rub against something. I've covered them with PVC tubing. That's 3/4 inch PVC tubing, by the way. Had to split it and then zip tie it to get it on there. Anyway, routed it around the passenger side here. I did have to move one of the horns, but that really wasn't all that complicated. Just a little tedious. Moved the horns over and remounted them over here. One was on this side of the subframe brace, and the other horn was over here, but I just mounted them together now, so the horn sounds the same. Anyway, got the braided lines going underneath there, coming back over across the top of this subframe arm or brace, and then I've got it diving. It's hard to see here, but I've got it diving underneath the sway bar, and then it comes down, and again I've got more PVC tubing covering that steel braided line. Comes across the top of the radiator hose, and then I've got it zip tied to just some kind of a mounting hole in the steering rack there, and I've got it secured pretty well to the top of the steering rack. And then it goes over there where it actually goes into the oil filter housing over there. Again, I'm afraid that that the steel braided lines are so abrasive that I covered it everywhere I thought it would be a problem with that PVC tubing. Let's go back. Let's go into the car here. And you can see there's all sorts of stuff going on with this car. New brakes scheduled for it. I got MCS coilovers on the thing. Anyway, so we go under here, and one of the issues with these Mishimoto oil coolers is how far does it lower the oil filter, and will it be an issue if you happen to go off track and hit the undercarriage, maybe knock out your oil filter. I outlined in an earlier video that the oil cooler, the thermostatic plate and spacer plate together only add an additional 1/4 inch of height to the overall assembly, and I didn't know if this would be significant in relation to the chassis subframe. Anyway, so here it is. If you just look across the chassis subframe and see how far the oil filter itself sticks below the frame, if I were to guess, it's probably 1/16 of an inch at the most. I suppose if that's an issue, you could perhaps hammer the rounded portion of the oil filter flat. That might get it down below there. But there are no issues in getting the aluminum cover tray that goes on the bottom here to fit on there. I've already test fitted that on there. And that's sitting right there. That aluminum under tray mounts easily without any modifications to it, and it doesn't actually hit the oil filter. Alright, let me go up underneath here and show you what I've got. You can see that I've got the banjo fittings and the hose is routed to the side. I've oriented it to the side. Some of the videos I've seen, or some of the instructions I've seen, is suggested to put the banjo fittings on the back side. Some say on the front side. I put them on the actual side, on the passenger side, because I had planned on accessing these small 8AN bungs here on either side for oil temperature and oil pressure monitors, and I wanted to be able to easily access those. And that's why I oriented them like that. Anyway, let's come back to the oil filter hanging below the subframe here. I got a straight edge, just a simple level here. And I'm sliding it across, and you can see that as I put it up against this subframe where the aluminum under tray mounts,
that it just barely hits the bottom of the oil filter. In fact, if I rest the straight edge on the oil filter, on the lowest part of the oil filter, you can see right over here where my thumb is that it's probably a 1/16 of an inch. The straight edge is maybe a 1/16 of an inch off of the subframe here. So not really a whole lot. Nothing to worry about. Will it cause a problem if you happen to gouge that area with a high spot and a track or curbing or something while you're on track? It's possible, but you know, it's the risks we take by driving on track. Anyway, hopefully you enjoy this video. It gives you some insight into how to route the hoses and what to expect when you use a Mishimoto Oil Cooler on your ND2 Miata. Anyway, let me know if you guys have any questions. Thanks.